FPL Thomas, thanks for joining in. Hello. Good evening. Over 1 million transfers out for Cole Palmer ahead of game week 4. Grealish 1.4 closely. I think there will be a lot of disappointed Grealish owners, to be honest. The fixtures are really tough for Everton. I need to make a couple of transfers in midfield myself, but I'm not sure I want Grealish. Semenyo is tempting. I'm actually considering bringing Wirtz back in as well. Edvix, thanks for joining in. How you doing? I'm just fine. Just logged on. Ready for a Q&A. I have some decisions to make. Quite a few injury updates today to mess up my wildcard. I don't really think that Cole Palmer will play this game week. Was it half a training session? Maresca said on the presser. I need a couple of midfielders myself. The thing is that midweek I was really sure about selling Sar, but at the moment I'm leaning towards selling Cunha instead, because the early reports were that Sar was going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, but I'm not sure if the injury is that severe, and Sar, he might potentially be back sooner than Cunha. Switch my free hit a bit. How are you? Just fine. Thanks for joining in, Virat. As usual, if you're interested, go post a picture of your team so we can get it up on the screen. At the moment, this is my team. I have to make a couple of transfers, at least one. I'm leaning towards selling Cunha at the moment to bring in another midfielder and just put Sar on my bench. Semenyo is tempting. I'm leaning towards a punt on Wirtz as well. I owned Wirtz for game week 1 and game week 2. So it kind of feels taking a step backwards, bringing Wirtz back in. But good fixture for Liverpool in game week 4. And bringing in Wirtz, it will cover the Liverpool attack in a way. I'm not that tempted by Gakpo, to be honest, because I think that when Alexander Isak is ready to start games for Liverpool, I can see some rotation for Gakpo, to be honest. So if I were to bring in a Liverpool midfielder, it would probably be Wirtz at the moment. Edwix, I sent my team. Let's have a look. I will be asleep though, but I will watch tomorrow. Great, we'll have a look at your team really soon. Let's start with Edwin. That's good enough. So this is Edwin's free hit team, doubling up on Newcastle with Pope and Botman. Kenny Tete, Anderson. I actually like this defense. A lot of differentials can potentially help you boost your rank, and you will cover the Fulham defense and Newcastle, obviously. So having Pope and Botman, I haven't really checked their ownership, but it must be quite low, right? Like 0.5, something like that, especially for Botman. Kenny Tete as well. In midfield, Wirtz, Mo Salah, Madueke, lovely punt on a free hit. I really like Madueke on a free hit. And you have King as well. Lovely fixture, playing at home against Leeds. Nothing wrong, even though the price might put some off to have him in their starting 11, but I think it's decent for this game week, to be honest. Up front, Gyökeres, Mateta, and Erling Haaland. So I think this team is really strong. Tuanzebe, I would probably put at least one starting player on my bench, to be honest. You have 2 injured players and Tuanzebe. I'm not sure if he'll play. Might get minus points playing for Burnley against Liverpool as well. So other than that, I think this team will do great. And I love, as mentioned, the inclusion of Madueke in midfield. I like the defense as well, considering the love ownership. Let's have a quick look at the anytime goal scorer. Haaland, Gyökeres is in. You have them both. Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle. Newcastle, they are actually third for the bookies predicted clean sheets, 44%, so doubling up on the Newcastle defense by having Pope and Botman. I think this is a really good idea. I don't know if Botman will play. There might be safer options from Newcastle at the moment. I think it's kind of hard selecting defenders from Newcastle. I think that the most nailed on player at the moment is Fabian Schär, but he's 5.5, so if you can afford Fabian Schär, that would probably be my pick, but I can see some rotation. Lewis Hall, he is back. Livramento is fit. Trippier as well. So they have some solid options in defense at the moment. Dan Burn, obviously. Botman is only 4.9. Selected by 0.5. Spot on. So I think this team is good. If you're able to upgrade Botman to Fabian Schär, that would be even better, in my opinion. But seeing you have both Erling Haaland and Mo Salah, I think you probably have spent all of your budget. Is it possible to send a team? Yes, head over to X, post a picture of your team under my latest posts, and we'll get it up on the screen. But let's take a look at FPL FOMO. FPL FOMO's Wildcard Draft. Would you say short-term Ekitike is better than Gyökeres, only 2-3 game weeks? I think that if you have 3 free transfers, the hockey cocky from starting with Ekitike and having a plan to change him to Gyökeres is probably a good idea. Really tough fixtures for Arsenal, but from game week 7, they have lovely fixtures. So I think that's probably a good idea. But this is a good team, Edwick. Hopefully you will do well in game week 4. Maybe try to find a way to upgrade Botman to Fabian Schär. Maybe Madueke has to go. I'm not sure. I really like him. I like Mateta, Gyökeres, Haaland. Maybe Wirtz to Gakpo, since this is a free hit. I don't like Gakpo as mentioned if it's for a transfer or on a wildcard, but since this is a free hit, I actually think that you can possibly bring in Gakpo instead of Wirtz and upgrade Botman to Fabian Schär. FPL FOMO 5.8 in the bank. I guess this is the Palmer money. It's kind of hard fitting the picture into the screen. Let's try another way. Not the best. Not the best quality, but hopefully you'll see which players we're talking about. At least we get all the players in the picture. So this is FPL FOMO's wildcard team. Raya, Ingol, Senesi, Tarkovsky, Munoz, and Lacroix. Really good defense. I would do something similar if I were to use my wildcard this game week. Crystal Palace, lovely fixture. We saw this Munoz on Wednesday as well. I really like the captain punt on Munoz, and hopefully this will be the game week where he delivers an attacking return. Tarkovsky in defense and Senesi. So two of the players that are really impressed when we consider the DEFCON so far. Bruno Fernandes in midfield, not the best fixtures, not the best fixture, of course, in game week 4. Tough game playing at the Etihad against Man City, but I think that on a wildcard, Bruno Fernandes actually makes sense. Semenyo, safe option. Esse, I think Esse is a good option at the moment, especially considering that Saka is injured. So I think Esse will start. I think he's owned by around 10% of the managers. So he could be a nice differential in game week 4. I'm actually considering bringing in Esse as well. I have Sar and I have Cunha. So Esse, he might be one of the contenders for a spot in my midfield as well. Up top, I really like Evan Nilsson. Talked about him in my team selection video. His ownership has probably gone up a bit, but midweek he was only selected by 3% of the managers. So he can potentially be a great differential for game week 4. You have Gyökeres, Mateta, and a solid bench as well. So this team is really strong. You have a plan. I think that Cole Palmer, when he's fit, he will get into this midfield somehow. So can't really fault this team, to be honest. There are 2 triple ups, 3 triple ups. I'm not a big fan of triple ups, to be honest, but might work out. I like the double Crystal Palace defense, and I think Mateta is a good option. So it makes sense to triple up on Crystal Palace. They have some really good value assets as well. Covering the Arsenal defense by having Raya. And so even though there are 3 triple ups in this team, I think it's a really good wildcard. I've got the vice captain on Gyökeres, not Mateta, but doesn't really matter. I think that Munoz, he wasn't really mentioned in the press conference, so I'm pretty sure that he will start for Crystal Palace against Sunderland. I think that having a strong bench like this with Paqueta and Reinders, I think that's okay if you still haven't used your bench boost. I'd say if you already used your first bench boost, can't really remember FPL FOMO if you've used your bench boost or not, but I think this bench is okay if you still haven't used it, but if you have used your bench boost, I would probably just downgrade Reinders to someone like King from Fulham. And I know that you had a lot of money in the bank, but it will be handy when it comes to future upgrades. So really strong team. I'm really considering SA as well. I think Semenyo is good. It's probably the safest option considering the ownership. I can't get to Bruno Fernandes. Well, actually, I can get to Bruno Fernandes if I sell Cunha. We'll have a look at my team later on, but I think that this is a good wildcard team. Quantum is Xavi Simons, a good pick. I think that Xavi Simons is decent. He's in the predicted starting 11 for Spurs, but I talked about this on Wednesday. I think it's actually kind of hard selecting midfielders and attackers from both Spurs and Newcastle at the moment. They have a lot of new transfers. They have some injuries as well, so we're not 100% sure how they will line up, but I think that Xavi Simons is a decent punt at least. Okay, let's have a look at a couple of other teams as well. So someone in the chat asked if it was possible to have their team reviewed. Let me know in the chat what's your X handle and we'll get the team up. FPL Ola 58 from Australia, sleeping at the moment. We'll watch the stream later on. We'll have a look at your team soon. FPL FOMO, decent wildcard team. Edwin with a good free hit draft. United Manchester. This is probably from the chat at the moment, 6 minutes ago. My name is United Manchester. Yes. That's it. Massimo in the chat. United Manchester on X. Let's have a look. So this is a free hit team, was it? Or just your regular team? Really strong team. My plan is about the picture. Can you please look at my team? My handle is the FPL Maniac. Post a picture of your team and we'll get it up next, Quantum. No worries, let's have a look. Wildcard team, Isaac in for Ekitiki when he is a regular. Salah out for a cheap midfielder, also meaning Mateta out for Holland. So this is a wildcard team with a couple of pre-planned transfers. Raya in goal. I think that selecting Raya on a free hit, on a wildcard, sorry, I think it makes sense at the moment. We know that he potentially can do well in those tough games, and they have lovely fixtures coming up next. So Raya in goal. Virgil van Dijk, one of the safest options in defense, 6 million, 6.1 maybe. Can't really remember. Van de Ven is in, really good value. And you have Lacroix, Semenyo, Kudus, Mo Salah captain, Bruno Fernandes, Mateta, Ekitiki, and Joao Pedro. And the plan was to upgrade some of those players and sell Salah to a cheaper midfielder, Ekitiki to Alexander Isak when he becomes a regular, and somehow bring in Erling Haaland. So a really strong team. My only worry is that you have a lot of pre-planned transfers using your wildcard. Really often this leads to hits, so you might get injuries, suspensions with your existing players, so you need to alter your plans. But this team looks really, really good for the next couple of game weeks. So I have Chris Wood at the moment, but I would really love to have Mateta for game week 4. Ekitiki is a really good option for game week 4. I think he'll start. I can't really see Alexander Isak starting. He did not play the first friendly for Sweden, and he only came in the second half for Sweden on Monday. So lack of match fitness. I've actually seen a couple of training videos from Alexander Isak during the weekend, so he looks sharp. He actually did look kind of good when he played for Sweden as well, but can't really see him starting in the Premier League this soon. So I think Ekitiki will start as Liverpool's number 9 against Burnley, and this will potentially be a great fixture. Mo Salah captain. I've talked about Bruno Fernandes, not the best fixture this game week, but I think that if Man United score against Man City, I think that Bruno Fernandes will be involved. Joao Pedro, good option. Semenyo safe as well. Kudus, I think that he will start. I have Kudus myself, and hopefully Spurs can do well against West Ham. On the bench, Senesi, really good option. You have King, another. I think that he is probably the best enabler, 4.5 from Fulham. Looks to be nailed on. Scored a goal already, but it was disallowed because of that free kick. VAR came in and disallowed that goal against Chelsea. Gudmundsson is probably one of the better 4.0 options in defense as well, and Dubravka the only starting 4.0. So I think you got this bench right, and can't really fault the starting 11 either. My only worry with this team is what I just mentioned about all the pre-planned transfers. I would probably just start with Erling Haaland if you really want him. But this would mean that you probably have to drop Mo Salah, and of course that is a huge risk heading into game week 4. So hopefully your plan will work. Quantum the FPL Maniac. Let's have a look. Quantum the FPL Maniac. There we go. I think that's good enough. Sanchez in goal, Richards, Pedro Porro, and Van de Ven, so a double up on Spurs. Rodgers in midfield, Reinders in the starting 11, Mo Salah captain, Bruno Fernandes. So all of the teams actually have had Bruno Fernandes so far. Watkins double up on the Aston Villa attack, Joe Pedro and Chris Wood. So this, is there any message on this one? Sar to Savi and bench Reinders or Wood if we get a leak. So the plan for Quantum is to potentially sell Sar. He is injured. He will definitely not play in game week 4. And get someone like Xavi Simons. This would mean that he would bench Reinders. I like the idea of bringing someone in to bench Reinders. I'm not a big fan of Reinders when it comes to FPL. I know he did well, 10 points in game week 1, but 2 blanks after this. Massimi, would you then take Salah out? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you have. It kind of depends, Massimi, if you have used transfers already. I think that if you have at least 2 free transfers, I think you just should go through with your plan. But if you will head into game week 5 with only 1 free transfer, I would probably just get Erling Haaland into the team, meaning I would drop Mo Salah. So how many free transfers do you have at the moment, Quantum? I think that Sar is... I think this team is good enough for game week 4, to be honest, so it's possible to save a transfer, in my opinion. I think if Quantum, if you have 3 free transfers, I would consider selling Sar, taking a punt on Xavi Simons and benching Reinders. If you only have 1 or 2 free transfers, I would probably just save and reassess after game week 4. 1 free transfer, 0 in the bank after Sar to Savi. Might roll, but I like the West Ham picture. With only 1 free transfer, I would potentially just save a transfer. I think that the Sar injury is not that severe as the early reports. So they first talked about 6 to 8 weeks, but I think that the last reports on Sar is that he will miss game week 4 but can potentially make it in game week 5. So if you only have 1 free transfer, I think it would be wise to just save this game week. But a strong team, it's kind of similar to my team. I have Sanchez, I have Pedro Porro and Van de Ven. I have Rodgers as well. Chris Wood, Joe Pedro. But I have Erling Haaland instead of Mo Salah. So which team is next? Let me know your X handle in the chat. We'll get your team up on the screen. Porro to Munoz makes sense. I think that Munoz is a better option in game week 4, but it's kind of a sideways move. I think I would only consider doing this if I had 5 free transfers and like had to use one to not burn it. But no one has 5 free transfers at the moment. So Wish Malasha will get your team up. This is Virat Kohli's team. Ertugrul on X. Let's start with a look at this team. So I can't really remember, was this a free hit? It's a really, really strong team, to be honest. Virat. This is a free hit team. Leno in goal. I think that Fulham will do well against Leeds. So Leeds, it's not like they have been bad so far. Kept 2 clean sheets actually, but they have struggled to score goals. So I think that Fulham has a decent chance of keeping a clean sheet against Leeds. Lacroix in defense, Pedro Porro, Virgil van Dijk. If this is a free hit team, I would potentially do Porro to Munoz on a free hit, but I wouldn't use a transfer on Porro to Munoz. We got this question in the chat as well. In midfield, Semenyo, Mo Salah, Kudus, Elanga. And up front, Ekitike, Mateta, and Joao Pedro. Really solid bench as well. Cheap as it gets, but decent options. So let's focus on the starting 11. I have Elanga, Kudus, Joao Pedro. I think they will do well in game week 4. Hopefully they will do well. Mo Salah captain. This is obviously the safest option. He will go above 100% effective ownership. So having Mo Salah for game week 4 is a good option. Semenyo, Ekitike. Can't really fault your attacking trio, Ekitike. I think he'll start as mentioned earlier. Mateta, really good fixture And Joe Pedro against Brentford is a really good option as well. Semenyo. Triple up on Liverpool makes sense considering the fixture against Burnley. I would potentially, if I were on a free hit, I would potentially try to get Munoz. And if I were on a free hit, I would probably get Xavi Simons instead of Kudus. I think Kudus is long term the better option, but on a free hit, I like to include a couple of punts. So Xavi Simons is in the predicted starting 11. So on a free hit, I would consider taking a punt on Xavi Simons. Really exciting player to watch. Can't really say that I watched him a lot, but the games I've seen Xavi Simons play for the Netherlands, I think that he potentially can do well in the Premier League. So yeah, I mentioned this a couple of times when it comes to both Spurs and Newcastle. I think it's hard to predict how they will line up. We get a question. Do you think Voltmade will start? At least all I can say is that both Xavi Simons for Spurs and Voltmade for Newcastle, they're in the predicted starting 11. So this is like, I think it's kind of guesswork at the moment, but I think that the injury to Visa definitely makes Voltmade an interesting pick for game week 4. We know Alexander Isak, he is not there. Anthony Gordon, he has left. Callum Wilson sold as well, so they don't really have any clear option as their number 9. So Voltmade will probably start. Your opponent in the head-to-head. I think that we are the only players in the head-to-head. And I checked on the Wednesday stream. I think that I've somehow managed to close for new entries as well. So the head-to-head league that's up at the moment, I think this will be a competition between the two of us. I might have to create a new head-to-head and leave it open for a bit longer. Your opponent is me. Yeah. I think it's 1-1 between us at the moment. I think that you got most points in game week 2. But I think I won in game week 3. Okay, let's have a look at Wish Malhotra's team as well. There it is. So I'm starting to get a bit better getting those teams a bit more centered, I'd say. Not perfect, but Okay, Sanchez in goal, double up with Pedro Porro and Van de Ven, Richards. Really similar to my team at the moment. I will start Sanchez as well, and I will double up with Porro and Van de Ven. You have Richards. I'm kind of jealous. I think that Crystal Palace, they have actually looked really good defensively so far. So having a Crystal Palace defender for game week 4, I think this means points. In midfield, Rodgers, Johnson, Mo Salah captain, Wirtz is in as well. Watkins, Pedro, and Chris Wood. I would do the same, to be honest. I would have Reinders, Milenkovic on my bench. Really strong team. I think you're able to just save a transfer. Last time I checked, it was on Thursday. Yesterday, Johnson, he was in the predicted starting 11 for Spurs as well. So I think that he is a decent option for game week 4. I know Rodgers, Watkins, they haven't impressed so far, but I think that the Aston Villa boys will come good soon. I have Rodgers myself. Watkins is still a good option. So Chris Wood, really tough fixture playing away against Arsenal, but can't really bench Chris Wood. He will start and he is on penalties. So a really strong team. I'm actually considering to bring Wirtz into my team this game week. I know that if he blanks, he will drop in price, definitely. But even though Wirtz blanked in game week 1, 2, and 3, I still think that he is a good player. He looked good, even though he hasn't actually had that many chances, but he's high on the list when it comes to expected assists, taking corners for Liverpool. I think that he is actually one of the safer options when we consider Liverpool attackers as well. I think that Gakpo at some point will see some rotation when Alexander Isak sells in, so kind of like Wirtz. Sandri, hi. Welcome in, Sandri. Thanks for joining. Did Aina to Munoz. Really good transfer for game week 4. Love it. Aina injured. Munoz, really good game week 4 fixture. And having a defender from Crystal Palace, I think this makes sense considering the opening so far. I would play Reinders for Rodgers. So Man City, obviously the better team, but in my opinion, I think that if I had both Rodgers and Reinders and had to bench one of them, I would probably bench Reinders. But Sandri, he seems to disagree, playing Reinders, benching Rodgers. Something to consider, of course, for Vish Malhotra. I think at the moment when I planned my wildcard team, I actually had a plan to play both Cunha and Sar this game week and bench Chris Wood. Game week 3 feels like it was like a month ago, to be honest. I'm really happy that FPL is back. Can't wait for the games to start tomorrow. So one positive with playing Chris Wood is, of course, that you will have a player in the first game tomorrow. Will be really interesting to watch Arsenal Nottingham Forest with Chris Wood on the pitch. Just hoping for Chris Wood to do something and wipe out the Arsenal clean sheet. There are a lot of teams with Arsenal defenders, a lot of experienced FPL managers. They have Gabriel. We have a lot of new unexperienced managers that have picked Caliafori because of the great start. The same goes for Timber as well. He had a really good game week. So the Arsenal defense is actually heavily owned at the moment. So I will really hope that Chris Wood can do something against Arsenal. Of course, it will be an anticlimax if Arsenal keep a clean sheet and Chris Wood blanks. Porro to Munoz, a waste. I think with this team, using a transfer on Porro to Munoz, I actually think that it's kind of sideways, to be honest. Especially seeing you already have Richards covering the Crystal Palace defense. I would probably just keep Pedro Porro. He's on set pieces for Spurs, so I think that just keeping Pedro Porro is the best play with this team, to be honest. No points from Chris Wood this week from Lisa K. I think that the fixture can't be much tougher for Nottingham Forest and Chris Wood. Let's just hope that they get a new manager bounce, something like that. My plan was actually to have Chris Wood on my bench this game week, but after the injuries to both Cunha and Sarr, I just have to start Chris Wood. That's what I thought. So this is my team at the moment. I need to do something in midfield. So one option for me is, of course, to just keep Sarr on my bench, sell Cunha to bring in Bruno Fernandes, but I don't really like the fixture, especially for this game week when it comes to Bruno. So bringing Bruno in with a free transfer, only for him to play away against Man City, doesn't really feel right. I have the opportunity to just do Sarr to Semenyo, and this is probably the safest option. I'm not interested in Grealish, even though over 1 million FPL managers have brought him in this game week. I don't think Grealish will be in my game week 4 team. Another option is, and this is probably what I'm leaning towards at the moment, and it is to bring Wirtz back into my team. They will score Ange system full out attack. I've actually read the last interview with Postecoglou. He actually said that they probably would just keep the same formation, playing a 4-4-2. He didn't really say what kind of tactic he would use, but he was talking about that he had some experience with playing 4-4-2 earlier on, so will probably be a back 4 in game week 4. I would be surprised if we see huge changes in the Forest team they haven't really had that much time. We have to consider that there has been an international break, so the players, they have been out traveling. Chris Wood just recently came back to England, played for New Zealand I think the game was in Australia. He's one of the few coaches who always wanted to score no defending. We saw with Tottenham. Incredible. I really like what he did with Spurs, to be honest, and considering the players that he had, I think it was easier for him to play a high line with the likes of Udogie, Van de Ven in defense. We consider Nottingham Forest, they don't really have, especially with Aina out as well. Their centre backs don't really have the same pace, considering that Milenkovic is a really good centre back, but not the most pacey. So I think they're playing a high line with Murillo and Milenkovic. It's probably a big risk for Nottingham Forest, especially against teams with good counter-attack. I know, but his style is so attacking. We will definitely get chances, maybe a penalty. I'm really hoping that this is right. I definitely think that when we consider the Nottingham Forest defense and Chris Wood, I think definitely that the appointment of Ange Postecoglou makes Chris Wood a good option. Maybe their defense will be a bit weaker when it comes to FPL, but I still like Chris Wood, and they have really good fixtures in game week 5 and game week 6. And this is why I picked Chris Wood in game week 3. I'm kind of regret not going for Mateta. I see some free hit wildcard teams with Mateta in that fixture at home against Sunderland. Looks great on paper. Was kind of disappointed the last game week. I had really high hopes for Chris Wood in game week 3, to be honest. The fixture was promising for Forest playing at home against West Ham. West Ham, they looked really weak in game week 1 and game week 2. So I was really hoping for a Chris Wood return. Make a prediction. I think, unfortunately, I think Forest will lose. Can't be much tougher, as mentioned, playing away against Arsenal, but I agree with, I think that Forest will score and hopefully Chris Wood will score the goal, but I think that Arsenal will put at least 3 goals behind Matzels in game week 4. So if I were to make a prediction, I think probably something like 3-1 to Arsenal. The best free hit for me will be in game week 7 when Chelsea plays Liverpool. I think that with the first free hit targeting those kind of games, tough games, if you have a couple of Chelsea players, a couple of Liverpool players, so avoiding them play against each other. I think this is a good strategy. I talked about this ahead of game week 1 as well. Another option, let's have, I can't really remember, is it game week 15, something like that? Game week 12 or game week 15? I'll get it up on the screen. GW4. Yeah. Game week 15, I think if you haven't really planned on when to use your chips, I think that game week 15 is a really good game week for the free hits. We have some lovely fixtures. Man United, let's start at the bottom. Let's start with Man United against Wolves. If Man United, they have actually looked decent. They have some good FPL options. We know Bruno Fernandes and Bumo Cunha. So if Wolves continue like they have done so far, I think that this is a really good fixture for Man United. Spurs playing at home against Brentford, Newcastle at home against Burnley, Man City at home against Sunderland, Liverpool playing against Leeds. So there are a lot of good fixtures for teams with good FPL options. This is game week 15, 6th of December. I think this is, if you still haven't planned when to use your free hit, I think this is a really good free hit game week. So let's have a look at FPL Ola's team. In Australia, sleeping at the moment, but let's have a look at the team. Was going to watch the stream later on. So we have in the comments over at X, this is a good squad from Leo. I kind of agree. Let's have a look. Let's start with the bench. Dubravka in goal, and Doi on the bench, Diouf and Esteve as well. So it makes sense. Tough fixtures for Endoy. Obviously, tough fixture for Esteve Dubravka. So they are on the bench. Diouf as well playing against Spurs. Agree with the bench. Let's take a look at the starting 11. Raya in goal. Hopefully the Arsenal clean sheet will be wiped out. If I'm not mistaken, I think that FPL Ola is an Arsenal supporter as well. Raya in it's Chelsea. I'm sorry. Double up from FPL Ola's team Chelsea. It's Cucurella and Joao Pedro. Solid options. I have considered bringing in Cucurella myself. I really like him as an FPL option. Strong defensively, he has the potential to pick up defensive contribution points, and we saw last season in the Club World Cup that he is really attacking as well. Guehi, covering the Crystal Palace defense with Guehi. Close to moving away from Crystal Palace, but I think that he will continue playing. And Senesi, another really good option. 4.5. I think it's actually 4.6 at the moment. Double up on Bournemouth with Semenyo, Mo Salah, Dewsbury Hall. I think at the moment, considering that NGI is injured, I know that Grealish is the most transferred in player ahead of game week 4 with over 1.4 million transfers in. But if I were to select a midfielder from Everton at the moment, it would probably be Dewsbury Hall. King, strong option, 4.5. Allows you to upgrade in other areas. And as we can see, with the inclusion of King, the enabler from Fulham, you can afford having both Mo Salah and Erling Haaland. So captain Mo Salah, vice captain Erling Haaland. I would probably do the same if I had Mo Salah this game week. I will captain Haaland, and I think that he potentially can do well against Man United, but Liverpool playing against Burnley, I think that if we have Mo Salah, he should be captained Joe Pedro, another safe option, and Mateta up front. A really strong team. Can't really fault this team, to be honest. You have both Mo Salah and Erling Haaland, but I think that King enables you to have a really strong team. Two solid 4.5 options. Cucurella in defense, Semenyo. And Zoe. Will be interesting to see how Nottingham Forest line up going forward with Ange Postecoglou. I think Endoy potentially can become an even better option, to be honest. So let's have a look at his ownership. 17 points so far and a price rise for Endoy, 6.1, but only selected by 3% of the managers. So great option. So I will probably sell Cunha at the moment. I'm leaning towards Wirtz. So this is my team at the moment. I have two injured players, both Sar and Cunha. I'm leaning towards selling Cunha to bring in Wirtz. Another option is to get Bruno Fernandes. If I have 1.7, just can't afford Bruno. I'm leaning towards just keeping Sar, reassess ahead of game week 5. I need to sleep on this decision. We'll make a transfer, at least one transfer. I have 2 free transfers. Hopefully I can just get away with using the 1 free transfer, benching Sar. So with this team, I will have Sar on the bench, Rodon on the bench, and Nico Williams for his tough fixture away against Arsenal. So my starting 11 with this team will be Sanchez in goal, double up with Pedro Porro and Van de Ven. Schär, good fixture, playing at home against Wolves. In midfield, I will have Rodgers. If I bring in Wirtz for Cunha, I will definitely start Wirtz with Elanga and Kyrgios up front, Joe Pedro, Haaland and Wood. Hopefully this team can get a lot of points in game week 4. Not the best fixture for Chris Wood, but I'm really hoping that Forest can score against Arsenal. So I will have a deadline stream tomorrow, couple of hours before the deadline. So if you're interested, go join that one as well. Thanks for all of the team's pictures over at X, and thanks for all the comments in the chat. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel for more streams and weekly FPL videos going forward. Thanks.